Hey guys. So I had 2 weeks off of work for Christmas, and I found some time in between doing all of the family stuff and taking care of my kids to also get some plug-in work done. Pretty much everyone's like biggest wish was for the gun tool script to be completed and worked on, so that's what I did mostly. I think I added more features than I'd intended originally to it, and now I'm pulling on a possible melee grip script as well. But I wanted to go over what I did with the gun tools. I went and downloaded all the games that currently implement virtual stocks, and then went and checked the general public opinion for them. And I found the one that was probably the most favorably received, and also was fairly nice to implement. So I basically took what Pavlov is doing for virtual stock and then improved on it a little bit. I may add other virtual stock types in the future, but for now, this one's actually working pretty good. But let me go over some of the gun tools options. So she's my left hand. So under grip logic scripts on this gun right here, I have GS gun tool selected. Oh, I also opened it up so that placed objects in levels can also have their own grip scripts now instead of having to be default to the class. I was waiting for an engine bug to be fixed for that, and I forgot to re-implement it when it was fixed. So this one has different grip scripts than that one over there. Anyways, so gun settings, which is all these, and then they're different categories. We have use high quality remote simulation, which is default to false. If that is true, then when you're in a networked environment, remote clients will see all the full like hand smoothing and stock snapping and everything that the locally controlled player sees. And it'll be a full simulation of everything that they do. But the reason that I have that default off and I run a lower quality gun simulation when you're remote or like the server and not the person that's actually holding the object is because that takes more CPU, and I'm not sure that you want to have full smoothing and everything on every gun wielding player in your game if there's like 20 people in an area. You can turn that on if you think you can afford the CPU cost of having it on. It's optional. I mean, all you have to do is tick that box on the weapon, and then it'll use high quality remote simulations. Since it's part of the gun tools, you can do that on a per weapon basis. So let's say you want like an AR to be high quality simulation because you're going to be closer to people with that more often. You know, you're going to be within visual range and you want them to see exactly what they're doing. Then maybe you'll tick it on ARs, but a sniper that's halfway across the level, why would you have high quality remote simulation on? So you turn it off. Stuff like that. Pivot offset. Talked about this before. I have it enabled on this one here and not on the one on the chest over here. So it's hard to teleport with. I didn't bind the thumbstick on these for this sample. So pivot offset is the offset for your primary hand for when you're doing two-handed gripping, where it will rotate from. Oops. So yeah. Oh, I forgot. I have another grip script on that gun. It's not going to work very well. Anyways, so pivot offset is normally on a gun. Your pivot offset is from wherever the 0 point on the controller is, like that. But as you saw on the other gun, the pivot offset was from down here at the bottom of the controller, and that's because I had a -15 on the x-axis offset, so that you can change where you want your gun to pivot, whether it be up here at the top or down here in your palm more, which you'll probably want your palm more, and it'll make it feel better in your hand. Don't mind that there might be a few little bugs with some of the interactions. I'm doing this video on a fully nativized build, and nativization is, it tends to break blueprint scripts sometimes. I wanted to make sure that grip scripts could fully nativize, and they can now, so that's good. Anyways, next part, virtual stock. This was the part that people wanted the most. You can enable it with use virtual stock, use distance-based stock snapping. If this is enabled, it'll take the stock snap distance, and when you're two-handed gripping something and you're your primary hand is within that distance to wherever your virtual stock mount location is, then it'll automatically enable the stock mode. You can also leave distance-based stock snapping off and manually enable it with a set virtual stock enabled. It's a node that you can call in the grip script. Oh yeah, that's the. I keep forgetting what button does what on my knuckles. One sec. Yeah, it's that one. Okay. Okay, so virtual stock enables the stock mode, and we'll go over how it works in a little bit. Stock snap offset is that circle you saw here that was debug rendering. That's an offset that's applied to that, so you can change how far out it is from your camera, or the sides, or back, or down, stuff like that. By default, I have that circle follow the primary hand height until it goes out of the stock range, and then it disappears. So this makes it easier to align your hands than, let's say, what Pavlov has. Because Pavlov is a straight toggle. It'll be in stock mode all the way out to here off to your side when you're looking at somewhere else, instead of a distance-based snap. And I wanted to do height, because otherwise you have to have your front hand up here in front of your face, even if your bottom hand's down there. So this one lets you move your hands together, but you still keep the virtual stock settings. Debug draw virtual stock is that circle you saw. You don't need to care about the lines. It's basically just to see where the sphere is. And for my own use, it won't do it in shipping, so you can turn that on when you want to debug where you're having your mount location if you're applying that stock snap offset, or just to see basically how it's working. And then you can leave it on even, because it won't do anything in shipping, but you can turn it off when you don't want to say a circle anymore. That's the debug drawing mode. Smoothing, smooth stock hand. This lets you take your primary hand when you're in double grip mode on stock, and it'll smooth the location of it so that it's not as sharp. And then I'm using the Euro 1 smoothing, the same thing the laser beam uses, and the same thing the front hand uses, so that you can individually smooth micro movements like jitter like this, and large movements, so that you can keep the speed of large movements and just slightly smooth it, and then micro movements are basically removed. So if you see me holding the gun here, this is unsmoothed, and what was I doing? I was doing this. So you see how I'm waggling this? Now, stock mode itself is going to smooth it anyways, but you'll notice some latency, which is positional smoothness too when I take it into stock mode. So I'm going like this, and I put it into stock mode. We're going like this, and put it in stock mode, and it smooths it out. See the difference between that and that? It's stabilizing. It's actually quite a bit smoother. And then you can change this so that it's even smoother or faster, depending on the settings you set. And you also change the front hand so that it's smoothed as well, which it's not currently, but you can. So that's basically the point of the stock, is just take that and make it like that. So you get less of the influence of this hand, and you get it more centered with your face, and you get a smoother gun position. And it changes the pivot. Instead of being off of your other hand when you're holding it like this, it's off of this mount location that it turns the gun. So that's why changing the mount location affects how easy it is to pivot the gun. So you might want to move this mount location out farther a little bit, and then it's easier to swing your arm around. But you get more control like this, because you get a little more distance, and it's a little slower to turn over, and you get a little more smoothing anyways. So there's two different smoothing settings: the front hand, the rear hand, multiple options for fast movements and micro movements, and also the stock mode itself, which also does some smoothing, because you're basing it off of a front hand to kind of a neck collar position, instead of your rear hand and your front hand only, which then you introduce 2 points of jitter. Recoil has recoil. You turn that on, and then the script will be able to use all the recoil settings. You have to apply recoil in blueprints. You reference the gun tool script, and you add a recoil instance on when you fire, whenever you want, and whatever that value you provide is automatically lerped up to at this rate, and then decayed down from at this rate. I already did a video about that. Max recoil, translation, rotation, and scale is the maximum value that it'll go before it clamps and stops. So I think I already described all of those. Um, and that's basically it. As far as the grip script, that's about as far as Gun Tools is going to go. I mean, this is most of the stuff that was difficult for people to do themselves, and I wanted to make it easier. I mean, the virtual stock was the most asked for feature, so that's the one that I wanted to do first, and it is effective. I mean, you've got a lot of micro wobbles when you're holding two hands like this directly. It's cleared up a lot when you only have one, and then when you're in stock mode, this hand still controls your roll and it controls positional, but it doesn't have any influence on the yaw and pitch rotations. So, and I have it at the distance, so you can like say have a gun here, and then you want to aim at the sight, you bring it up into stock mode, bring it out of stock mode, into stock mode, stuff like that, and it's all configurable. But I just wanted to go over the gun tools since I was working on them. Like I said, this is running in a fully nativized packaged build of the template, which wasn't possible with grip scripts before 4.21.2 or 1. I'm not sure which patch fixed it. I had a bug report in for instance objects not being able to be nativized if they're blueprint based, and obviously Epic went and fixed it, and I didn't see it in any patch notes, so I don't know when it was fixed. That's nice. As you can see, there are some blueprints tend to break in nativized still. It's still a work in progress engine feature. As you noticed, my gun stock is in not behaving correctly when I let go of it anymore, and that's not a plugin fault. I believe that's because of nativization. So I'll have to fix that if possible. I don't know. Regardless, that won't happen in normal packaged builds. So I guess next thing that I would be doing is maybe a melee weapon grip script. You know, possibly with stepping tracing across motions and stuff like that. I'd like to do a custom late update for the gun tools where it will let you do late updates with two-handed. Because, you know, obviously two-handed you have a bit of delay because it's not running late updates anymore because late updates are based off of one controller basis. It's theoretically possible to run late updates off of both hands. The problem is you have to recalculate all of these two-handed interaction settings over again if you want to get the offset perfect. And I'm not sure I'm a big fan of that because it might destroy some of the accuracy. So if I get around to working with custom late updates, then I'll do that. I played around with it briefly and didn't finish it in this time I had off, so I just finished up the gun tools instead. If anyone has any other ideas for additional grip scripts that would be helpful, I'm trying to work on grip scripts and flesh them out because the core of the plugin is fairly stable at the moment. I have some other minor features I want to bring out soon, but they're easier to do outside of VR and implement, so I wanted to implement the kind of VR exclusive stuff first. Oh, yeah. There's another nativization issue. He's lost their collision. I look forward to the day nativization works right out of the box in Engine. Because this really is nice. Everything's butter smooth with it. It's just, you know, it's a hard nut to crack on their part. So you have to be patient with it. Anyways, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's another highly requested feature that's essentially done. I'm going to take it live today, let people play with it, and give feedback. And then fine tune it, maybe add more stock modes, we'll see. And then maybe do a melee weapon grip script and some other things. And I don't know. Oh, see it.